like to say good morning to you, but it is evening. It's actually 10 o'clock at night, and it's the best time for me to do stuff these days because I'm awake. We are going to make pumpkin pie. We are going to use canned pumpkin. I'm going to make a homemade crust, and I thought I would show how I did that because a lot of people have a problem making pie crust, and it's really not that difficult. I can't make bread, but I can make pie crust. So you're going to need a rolling pin, which I'm going to set off to the side because I don't need it right yet. You need to put together your wet ingredients, which for my pie crust, I'll get my old cookbook. I've had this a very long time. This is the wet ingredients. We're going to put that in a small bowl. 1 egg. The whole egg. You want this to be at room temperature when you're mixing all this stuff together. And later you're going to want to put it in the refrigerator. You're going to need 5 tablespoons of water, or 1/3 cup. And you're going to need 1 tablespoon of vinegar. You can use white vinegar, which is what this recipe actually calls for, or you can be like me and only have apple cider vinegar in your house, so that's what you're going to use. So, tablespoon of vinegar. And this one has the mother in it. And then you're just gonna, all you're doing is breaking up the egg. You just mix it up. For all those years that everybody has come to the house and you've had homemade pies, this is the crust. Okay, so we got that part done. Put that off to the side. You'll need to stir it up before you put it in with the flour and all that. In another bowl, you're going to need 3 cups of flour. And this is all-purpose flour. And I need to get a knife. I should have enough flour to do this with. You don't want to like fill it, like really pack it. You want to make sure that you get all the air bubbles out. This is just how I do it. You guys can do it any way you want, but this is how I do it. Then I take the bottom of the knife, the top blade of the knife, and I just knock off what's on there. So that's 1. Try not to make a mess because I don't wear an apron, which I should, but I don't. I made sure I had an old shirt on, so it's not going to hurt nothing. 2. 3. Now, I'll leave that in there. And we're going to need more flour here in just a little bit. So I'm just going to set it to the side. And we're going to need a teaspoon of salt. And I like doing the salt over the sink so I don't make a big mess, which I usually do. Teaspoon of salt. Now that I have this all in here, you're going to want to mix the salt in with the flour. So that should be nice and incorporated. I won't need this anymore. The next part, you need 1 1/4 cups of shortening. Now each one of these is a cup. It's already pre-measured out for you, which makes it great. It is room temperature. And that's what you want, is room temperature. I use the butter Crisco. You can use plain if you like. I've just always done it this way. And then you need a 1/4 cup from this side. I've always liked these. I didn't always have these, but this makes it a whole lot easier. So what I do is, since I only need a 1/4 cup, I kind of make a little indentation in the side here. Which I can see where I did it at. And then I just eyeball it. Some things with cooking you should not eyeball, but some things you can. This is one of them. You can do that. It's not going to hurt anything. Or at least it doesn't for me. Now, when I go to make those Christmas cookies for the collaboration, I'll have some to use that on too. So now that we have all that in there, this is a pastry cutter. And I have found, I used to use a fork. So I used to do it old-fashioned way. And then I found a pastry cutter. So all this does is it cuts up shortening. Now you want to get it all mixed up, cut up as well as you can, because the better that you have it cut in, the easier it's going to be here in just a few minutes. So you just cut it up as good as you can. Oops. You're going to have like little clumps. So it's going to be kind of like little clumps. So that should be enough for that. You probably wonder, why you clean your mess up all the time? Well, it drives me crazy. It drives me crazy. Okay, so the next part, you're going to have a spoon. Okay, I no longer need the cookbook. So you have all this in here. It's all incorporated, mixed up. Try to mix it as much as you can. Okay? So then you come and you get your egg, vinegar, and water mixture, and you mix it up as best you can so that all the egg's not sticking to the bottom. Make a well and pour it in. Then you're going to take your spoon and you're going to gently mix it until it doesn't look like crumbled up mess. It's going to start pulling together. And this recipe makes 2 pie crusts. So you can have a top pie crust if you want. I believe you can freeze it, the other one, if you're not going to use it. But if you do that, you probably want to roll it out and then roll it up to freeze it, because otherwise it's going to be a pain. Alright, so now I've got it all mixed together. And that's all it takes, is just mixing a little bit together, just like that. No big deal. You're you're going to need a little bit of flour. And you're going to need, I use wax paper to do this next part. So, some people don't. I'm not rolling it out right yet. We're going to do a little trick I learned a long time ago. So you try to get it all together. Sometimes it likes to come together and sometimes it doesn't. We got a big old mess. If you can't make a mess, then something's wrong. Alright. So I'm going to separate this off into two pieces. And I'm going to make a ball. You don't want to play with your dough that much, because if you do, it makes it what they call tough. So you don't want to play with it too much. And that's exactly what that means. You don't want to play with it too much. Just like bread dough. You make these up into a ball, because the next process, once you got them all prettied up, okay, so that you're going to have leftover, no big deal. So they should be about the same size. Okay, so next process. You're going to need some plastic wrap. This plastic wrap different than what it used to be. Wow. Alright, so you take your dough and you wrap it up in some plastic wrap. Now this process, you don't have to do this process. Honestly, it's just easier to work with. Just wrap it up in plastic wrap, and then you're going to put it in the refrigerator for about a half an hour. It has been about 30 minutes or so, and I've taken this out of the refrigerator. It's cold to the touch. Put it right in the middle of my wax paper here. Put some flour on it. And you're going to just start by pushing it down a little bit. Try to squish it out. Get some flour on your rolling pin. And you go in that way, and then you come this way, and you just go slow, because homemade pie crust is not like store-bought pie crust. It's more delicate, I guess is the word, because they handle it more than what you would handle it. I find that it's easier to roll it out the best that you can, as far out as you can. If it sticks to your rolling pin, it's okay. The big thing is you want to make it all the same thickness is the big thing. And if you have, like, we're going to have some holes here, just a little bit of holes, it's okay. You can fix those. You don't have to put a lot of pressure on your rolling pin when you're rolling it out. so don't worry about that. So when you think that you have it big enough, which I have it big enough because it's going in this pan. Now, to get your pie crust in your pan, I have a, it's for pastry. It's just a little, I don't even know what you call it. But anyway, you're able to go underneath this. You're going to want to roll your pie crust up around your rolling pin and go slow, because if you don't, you're just going to make a big old mess. And if it comes apart, it's okay. You can fix it. It's very forgiving. So you just go around and you get it rolled around it. Get your pan, whatever pan you're going to use. Randy bought these for me years ago. And then you just roll it back out over the top of your pan. And like I said, you can fix it. But the less that you play with it, the better that it's going to be. It's going to be more flaky and more light if you don't play with it. Now, a lot of you have seen my pies, and I bet you never knew that they look like this when I started with them. Because a lot of times they don't look so swift. I try to cut off some about 1 inch out, and I can use it to fix another spot. You just kind of push it in there because it'll stick. No worries. You can do little fancy things with pie crust too, like they do in the fancy stores. I'll show you that here in a minute. First, you want to get your crust how you want it, because you're going to have to fix it to get it make sure you get it down into where you want it at. And this part, I'm going to have to redo this, but that's okay. I can fix that. So, once you get it laid out, like you want it, and you're not hanging over too much around the edges. You got a few pieces here left. Okay, so the next part, this is how I do mine. You're going to need a fork, and you're just going to fork the inside of the pie crust. There's the pie crust. Now, we're going to make some leaves. Just make you a leaf. And I usually bake them on the sides. So when the pie is done, you just set this in the middle of the pie. You got 2 leaves. This is the easy part. We're going to start out with our eggs. Alright, 3/4 of a cup of sugar. So there's sugar. You need 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And then you need a can of pumpkin. It's actually a deep dish pie. A 9-inch. So if you make the smaller pie pans, then you're going to have leftover filling. I have preheated the oven to 425. This calls for 1 can, 12-ounce can of evaporated milk, and then you just mix it up. You can use a mixer, but you guys probably know I don't use a mixer very often, so. A little old school on some of this stuff. If you ask me how I learned how to do all this, I'm going to tell you trial and error. If you can follow directions, you can cook. If you cannot follow directions, don't even try. Mix it up really, really good. I'd like to tell you how much of this pumpkin pie spice that I put in this, but I really don't know. I just put it in. Pumpkin pie spice is actually pretty expensive, believe it or not. That's going to be too hard, because I put a lot of it in. I think the recipe calls for like 1 3/4 altogether of the spice. I just put it in until it looks good or smells good, because I like it spicy. But you can go by the can. I use the famous pumpkin pie recipe on the back of the can. I have for many years. I just put extra pumpkin pie spice in is all I do. Make sure you get it mixed. And I like this bowl for this purpose. It has a little bit of a lip, and that's why I like it, because it makes it easy to pour stuff in. For this size of a pie pan, this is the perfect amount. Alright. Put it on a pan, and we're going to put it in the oven. So you wonder how do you know it's done? You stick a knife in the middle of it, and if it comes out clean, then it's done. So it comes out clean, but it means it's done. You need to put it on a cooling rack for about 2 hours and then put it in the refrigerator once it's cooled off. You put your leaves on like you want them, and then you have a pretty pie. If I can get my leaf back where I wanted him. There we go. Perfect. So that's going to be really good later. It's hot now. So enjoy your pies. And I hope I help somebody learn how to make pie crust. It doesn't have to be pretty to taste good. See y'all next time.